We are talking about triangle congruence postulates, and we want to prove triangles are congruent based on these postulates here. So the first step is redraw overlapping triangles. In this case, we don't have any overlapping triangles, so we can go right into the proof and writing down the given information. So B is the midpoint of line segment AD, and that's given. Now, from that information, we can't mark anything on the drawing, but we can make one more statement and then mark things on the drawing. So we can say line segment AB is congruent to line segment DB. And that is definition of midpoint. Next, we have basically the same thing. B is the midpoint of line segment EC. And that's given. And we can't really mark anything from that, but once we have that information, then we can say EB is congruent to CB. Line segment EB is congruent to line segment CB. And again, we have definition of midpoint. Well, now let's take a look and see, is there any other information that we're given? In this case, there isn't. And now it says, what are we trying to prove? So we are trying to prove not triangles that are congruent, but we're trying to prove parts of a triangle are congruent. So we're trying to prove that AE is congruent to line segment DC. And if we're trying to prove that two segments are congruent, in this case, what we've been working with, it's guaranteed that we're going to be talking about corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So now we just got to figure out how to get there. So from our drawing, we have two sides on each, and it's pretty, we can see hopefully that we have vertical angles here. So I can mark that with 2, and I can mark that with 2. So we have that angle, and now we just have to name it correctly. So this is a shorter side, and we can see that we have the 3 congruent marks. So A, B, E, so 3 to 4, and 3 to 4. So we have to name it correctly. So if we start at angle A, or angle A, B, E, so we had 3 congruent marks to 4 congruent marks. We have to name this angle the same way. 3 congruent marks to 4 congruent marks. So that's going to be angle DBC. And we said that the reason we can mark that is because of definition of vertical angles. So now we should be able to state that the triangles are congruent. So again, we can name it the same way because we should have already named it correctly based off the angle. So triangle ABE is congruent to triangle DBC, and then we said that was by side, angle, side. And once we have the triangles proven congruent, then corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And then we can say QED.